He dwelt in darkness without her. It was true. When she left, it seems she hadn't paid the electric bill. It also took every battery in the apartment. Not unusual to him. Nancy was such a battery hoarder. The night would be a very long night, all alone with electricity. The candles were melted down to the hardened puddle, and even the pack of forgotten birthday candles he'd scavenged had left the party. The only light came from the gas fireplace and the moon, too dim to read by, barely enough to cast shadows. All there was to do was to eat a cold can of beef ravioli with a spoon and think of her. Nancy, undeniably beautiful and spectacularly odd, had left small mental messes in his life. Her too frequent baths, her irrational fears, an uncanny ability to use up more batteries than any reasonable person ever could. He was terrified of germs, wouldn't cook, wouldn't clean, wouldn't sit outside on the porch, or watch TV in the dark alone, and he had to admire her from afar, their relationship devoid of intimacy, not for lack of desire, but because her phobias wouldn't allow it. He felt that he wasn't in love with her, except when he looked directly at her. His falling in love had been hypnotic, a kind of brainwashing by beauty. He was a butterfly floating on a timid wind, a hovering bird, one that caught the imagination. He had seemed uncatchable, but even now, in their empty apartment, he could almost hear her humming alone in the bath, rhythmically, peculiarly. He had gotten used to her presence. Standing at the glass door to the porch, Nancy's leftover cup of tea in his hand, tastes bitter and stale, reminding him she was not there. Outside the glass, the dark clouds were rolling away, the patio furniture wet. The storm it has let loose earlier in the day. Black night expanded with slow inevitability. The city lit up in scattered patches, neon and streetlights, nothing as pronounced as the church bells and car horns that had woke him up soon after dawn. Then a movement in the corner of his eye startled him, a sudden blur on the neighboring patio, a bird or bird-like shape, dark red and glowing faintly under the porch light. For a rare moment he smiled. Then Scrapper appeared, plunging from the shadows, Nancy's cat, her adopted menace. Then Bird was gone, and so was the smile. He exhaled, forehead pressing against the cool glass. Life was like this. You breathed, you existed, until something sank its teeth into you. Something always got you in the end. His life was like that. No birds visited his patio anymore, no squirrels paused to peer in. Nothing charming came to him now, not since Nancy had brought home that stray kitten from a parking lot. Why she had adopted it, he never understood. The cat tolerated her in a way it never tolerated him, not because it loved her, but because she never touched it, never disturbed its solitude. Her phobias had precluded that kind of affection, and in some unspoken way, Her choices had shaped more than her own world. They had shaped his too. But he had tried to befriend the cat because cats can view a need in a person, having that insidious cute factor. One day he beckoned to Scrapper, spoke in warm tones, invited it to affections. The cat seemed to accept, leaping into his lap with soft, expectant eyes. He stroked it cautiously at first, then with growing confidence. Without warning, claws extended, a swipe. He barely avoided it. Scrapper glared, hissed, leapt away, using his bare arm as a launching pad. Then deliberately, with half-lidded malice, it threw up on the carpet. His arm bled a little. He had not escaped unscathed after all. Lesson taught, lesson learned. Scrapper didn't truly live with them. It visited when it pleased and left when it wished. After rediscovering the joys of the outside world after Nancy's forced adoption, there was no keeping it inside. Then one night, it tried. The bully, Lucky, his white albino ferret. A friend had asked him to babysit it for just 1 week while he was moving houses, and then never returned with the odd-looking creature. He kept it, but they were not exactly friends. The cat and the ferret were equally unhappy with living the other. Lucky didn't last long after that, though. One night it found a gap in the kitchen cabinets and wriggled into the walls, then into the next apartment. The screams from next door suggested his journey hadn't gone unnoticed. When they opened their door, they heard people murmuring about paramedics and coroners. They shut the apartment door. Neither of them ever mentioned owning a ferret again, not even to each other. Lying on the couch, he realized most of his experiences and memories were far from happy. He could not remember a time when they had been happy. He had been spanked in school for things he hadn't done, bullied by Tommy Bynes, a boy who never spoke, only watched, and shoved, always smiling, but never quite cruel. Even romance had been unkind. His first girlfriend had patted tissues into her bra, trying to catch his attention. His fumbling discovery had led to tears, apologies, and a swift, silent breakup. Even now, all his memories seemed to collect under the same themes: disappointment, cruelty, emotional distance. Sighing deeply, feeling his past for the first time in many years, his eyes fell on the dark, lifeless television, normally his escape. Tonight it was nothing but a void, a dark shininess that held his shadowed reflection. In the dark, he sees, just barely, Nancy's brutal cat sitting a little away, eyes glowing in the bare light, and suddenly reminds him of a moment of childhood when his drunken parents were once again treating him like he was worthless, a burden, unloved and unwanted. There was a cat there, too, sitting in the dark light of his bedroom after he had been thrown in there and the door slammed shut. His body remembers first, breathless in that moment before his mind can rationalize or soften the edges of the onslaught of flowing memories. The slammed door, the loneliness, the rejection, the cat watching him in the dimness, the only living thing that didn't turn away. He sees it again now. Rapper's glowing eyes, a silent echo of that moment long buried, and suddenly he understands. The reality of his entire life comes flooding in. He had indeed once laughed. He had actually experienced love and being loved. He had experienced joy. But his damaged emotions had twisted those moments, warping his happiness into longing and regret. Instead of cherishing his best memories, he had crucified them, turning them into burdens instead of pleasures. He sat forward abruptly on the couch cushion, mind racing through those drowning revelations. What if Tommy Bond? Tommy had followed him, pinched him, pushed him, but never really hurt him, never insulted him. What if that wasn't bullying? What if Tommy had simply wanted to be friends, but hadn't known how to ask or offer? What if his first girlfriend had cared for him? What if she had noticed the way he watched other girls, the ones with more obvious curves, and had patted herself with tissues in a desperate attempt to catch his eye? What if she had actually thought she might love him? What if everything had been different from how he remembered? What if he had been sabotaging himself all his life? What if he was the problem, not other people? What if his sad and forsaken childhood had made him reject the possibility that he could be loved or accepted? And Nancy, what of her? Why had she chosen him? Why had she accepted him? Did she actually care for him? Or care about him? Did she perhaps even love him, if just a little? In the moment, he realized it for the first time about them both. He's a flawed human being, just as he himself is flawed. Yes, but not as impossible as he had convinced himself he was and is. Then the dawn came, and it came suddenly, the light rising quickly, flooding into the darkness of the apartment, and chasing out the doubts of his mind. He understood finally. He knew at last. The very long night was completed and over. He felt entirely different, a very different person. Felt for sure that he was seeing with new eyes, seeing with new clarity. Shadows did not flicker at the edges of his vision. His mind was clearer of lingering doubts. He knew he was changed, but also understood that he still had much to do. Why are you sitting in the dark? A voice behind him asked. He turned, shocked, fully into the here and now. You're here. I couldn't stay away, Nancy said softly. You were right. I need help. We need to be more than this. He hesitated. Can we turn on a light at least? He blinked. You didn't pay the bill. I did. Did you check the breaker? It might have tripped during the storm. For a long moment he stared. Then suddenly he laughed. He laughed at the absurdity, the irony, the simplicity of the problem. And still smiling, he flipped the breaker. And he turned to her in the light. He saw her for the first time. Truly, for the first time. He saw in her eyes a change too, as if she knew something profound had happened to him. He was different. His eyes were different. They knew. They were now walking on the same path together, to a destination unknown, but towards a sky what was brighter than it was dark.